This is Sagehen Creek in the northern Sierra Nevada mountains of California. We're on the eastern side of the range, just below the crest, where the creek drains a watershed of 10 square miles. Sagehen Basin is part of the University of California Natural Reserve System, and it's home to a long-running network of environmental observation stations, making it a small but mighty watershed for research on the interaction of ecology, geology, hydrology, and climate. The dense network of sensors and long record of data collection makes Sagehen an ideal spot for new studies designed to understand the movement of water through the landscape and to understand how water quality has changed in the past and will continue to change in the future, especially due to the effects of ongoing climate change. Today, I'm in the field with Zach Myers and Laura Rademacher from the University of the Pacific and Nicole Fernandez and Lou Derry from Cornell University. We're going to sample water from springs that feed Sagehen Creek with the goal of understanding what happens to natural water as it moves through the subsurface where it can't be directly observed. What are we going to do today?
Collecting groundwater samples so we can date them.
Sweet. The presence of numerous springs in this basin is one reason that we're working at Sagehen. Here we can separate out the surface water in the stream from the groundwater in the springs. By analyzing these two parts of the watershed separately, we can better understand how water moves through the landscape. In detail, this project will use geochemical tracers to understand the chemical changes or weathering reactions that take place when rainwater percolates through a watershed and comes into contact with the bedrock below. Here at Sagehen Basin, we have 4 and 5 million-year-old volcanic lava flows overlain by glacial debris derived from the surrounding area. The volcanic rocks are rich in silica. When silicate minerals dissolve during weathering, they play 3 important roles in the environment. The chemical reactions that dissolve minerals release ions in solution that control the pH of the water in the watershed. Carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere during these chemical reactions. The aqueous solutions derived from the minerals provide nutrients to the surrounding ecosystems. Measuring the dissolved mineral components in the spring water tells us a lot about what's going on in the part of the watershed that we can't see. Some of these measurements are made right here in the field. Others will be completed back in the lab. The water that emerges from the springs in Sagehen Creek Basin has been in the subsurface aquifer for a while. And in fact, that length of time is what we refer to as the age of the water. Some water enters the aquifer as rainfall and moves slowly or over a long distance, and it's many years old. Other water can reemerge in just a few weeks or months, so that water's very young. Across all of the springs that feed Sagehen Creek, there's a range of water ages, and those waters of different ages mix when they flow into Sagehen Creek. By sampling the springs directly, we get to record the water chemistry before it gets mixed into the stream. Laura has been measuring the age of groundwater samples at Sagehen Creek for years. This new set of measurements will extend the groundwater sampling record to 25 years. The principal techniques for dating water samples all involve measuring atmospheric gases dissolved in the water when it was in contact with the atmosphere. In order to ensure that none of the gases of interest escape during sampling, special copper sampling tubes have been developed for use at sites like Sagehen. 2 of the gases that we'll analyze are the anthropogenic chemicals chlorofluorocarbon 11 and chlorofluorocarbon 12. CFCs act like fingerprints because they aren't naturally occurring. They're only produced by humans. Because they have no natural source, we know exactly when they were released to the atmosphere, and we have a record of their abundance over time. Chlorofluorocarbons dissolve in rainwater and are then carried into aquifers as groundwater. When the water loses contact with the atmosphere, its CFC signal is locked in. If we can grab the groundwater just before it exits from a spring, we can measure the CFC concentration and determine how long it's been underground. Now we know its age. And here are some other things that we already know about water in the Sierra Nevada streams. The amount of stream water varies a lot over the course of a year. During the spring and summer snowmelt season, streams carry a lot of water, and during the rest of the year, their flow is relatively low. This graph shows 1 year of streamflow measurements in Sagehen Creek and the typical range of variation observed in a snowmelt-dominated watershed. All stream waters carry ions dissolved from minerals during chemical weathering. However, the concentration of those ions changes when the amount of water in the stream changes. The red data points are conductance, a measure of dissolved ion concentration. What we see is that when streams run high, their dissolved load is low, and when streams run low, they carry higher levels of dissolved ions. And we also know from many decades of measurement that the total amount of water that flows during the snowmelt season in Sierra Nevada streams is decreasing. Each bar here represents the water that fell as snow in one winter. These data show that spring snowmelt runoff has decreased by 4% per decade over the last 70 years. If we could analyze the water only from Sagehen Creek, it would be a real challenge to figure out which watershed processes are controlling the chemistry of the stream. Is it the length of time the water's been in the subsurface? Is it the particular type of bedrock that the water's interacted with? Is it the rate at which the minerals dissolve? How much do these reactions change when the amount of water changes, and how does the variable mix of all these processes across the watershed impact the chemistry of the stream? Our ability here at Sagehen to separate out the spring water from the stream water and to measure the chemistry and calculate the age of water in each individual spring helps us answer these questions. Once we understand the behavior of a small watershed where we can isolate some of the variables, we can take that knowledge to larger and more complicated systems. And we can use the long history of observations here at Sagehen to help us predict how the watershed will respond to climate change and to the climate-driven changes in water balance that we expect to see here and in many other ecosystems as well. Finally, one of the things that struck me on my visit to Sagehen Basin is this. We're up here in the mountains in a place that's beautiful and appears pristine. Yet we know that this ecosystem is in the process of recovery from a period of clear-cut logging at the end of the 19th century. The scars of that human-caused change are disappearing here. But even though we can't see it, the impact of more recent anthropogenic damage to the atmosphere is apparent in the chemical measurements that we make on spring water. Chlorofluorocarbons in the environment are invisible, but we can measure them. And how ironic is it that those human fingerprints on the atmosphere allow us to better understand the natural history of this watershed?